Welcome to today's episode. Today I am with Casey Vu. Casey is a mama of a 1.5-year-old, a wife, entrepreneur, and mindset mentor for mumpreneurs. She was diagnosed with postnatal depression and PTSD last year when she quit her job to stay at home full time with her baby. She learned how to master her own mindset and develop a business in helping other mums pursue their own heart-led mission. So, Casey, how are you? Thank you for being here today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I am just feeling so excited to sit down and talk with a fellow mompreneur who gets it and also to connect with your audience. I have been able to just see the tribe that you've built, and I am a firm believer in your vibe attracts your tribe, and I am truly an honor, like I'm honored to be here. I'm very excited.
Oh, thanks so much. And how did I go with that introduction? Is there anything I missed or that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I thank you so much for that lovely intro. I that you're pretty spot on with that. I do help mompreneurs. I do a lot of the mindset work behind um, driven women who typically excel in school and typically excel in their careers. But
Mhm.
when they are wanting to transition into building a heart led business, they find themselves sort of procrastinating or self-sabotaging, and they're allowing excuses get in the way of them actually doing what it takes to start generating income and making impact in other people's lives. So I get to sit down with them and go a little bit deeper into reasons why they are self sabotaging. And we do a lot of mindset techniques and NLP to really help them become the badasses that they really want to be in their business. So I
Mm.
love my job. I love the women I get to work with. And it's been a year since being diagnosed and having all of that happen and me having to go to therapy and not knowing what my purpose in life was to where I am now. And I honestly, I wake up kind of not recognizing the woman I've become, but feeling so grateful to be her.
Yeah,
But I know
amazing.
that, and I know and recognize that it is a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And so before we really jump in, I'd love to know, how do you start your day?
I start my day typically, well, now that, so right now my husband is home working. So I wake up to him at home and I wake up to my daughter typically ready to wake up.
Mhm.
And her and I dress her, get her ready, and then we both will have breakfast together. And ironically, I think a lot of moms do like their self care routine when they wake up early. And I used to do that. But then I realized that I typically get a lot of work done really late. So I've actually moved my self care routine midday, where
Mm.
my daughter goes and takes a nap. So
Oh, yeah.
ironically, I just like go ahead, jump into mom life when I wake up. And then I actually kind of like start me time during nap time because I work late at night. So it's kind of flip flopped, but it's worked really well for me. So
Mm.
I am not like a 5 a.m. person.
Yeah.
I thought that I wanted to be, but I'm like, you know what? This is working really well for me, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I love that you've adapted it to your lifestyle and what suits you, because we are all different and we all have energy levels and stuff at different times. So that's really amazing how you honor that and do it in a different way and around your kids and stuff. And I mean, I've always been a like 5 a.m. kind of person, but lately it's not happening. So I'm finding myself doing my
Mm-hmm.
self-care. Sometimes I do like one really quick thing, and then sometimes I do it at night, sometimes I do it in the middle of the day.
Oh
It
yeah.
changes every day at the moment. So
Yeah.
yeah, I totally resonate with
That's
that.
such a good point. That's such a good point, and that's something that I really love expressing to my clients. Like, you don't have to always feel like you have to be the mom that wakes up super early before the kids. Like if it doesn't work out one day, like find a place to squeeze it in, but never ever skip it, because that
Mm,
truly is like the foundation to your business and in like being the kind of mom that you want to be. So
mm,
I drill it into them that it's, you've got to fit it in. And just like you said, even if you squeeze it in right before bed, it's so crucial. But
yeah.
yeah, like I obviously I know that when you don't take care of yourself, it can lead to like terrible, terrible things.
Yeah, yeah, me too, me too. I was
Yeah.
in that place with my first son as well. So yeah. And what compelled you to become a coach?
Oh my gosh, this is going to be such a funny story, but I have to believe that I'm not the only one that kind of felt that like this. But I actually last year I was an aspiring YouTuber. Like I wanted to like be on YouTube. I didn't really know what I wanted to talk about, but I knew that I
Mm,
wanted to help other moms, especially since there was such a bad connotation behind having postpartum depression. And like I had a lot of guilt for feeling sad sometimes, even though I absolutely loved being a mom. Like I loved my
mm,
daughter so much. And I was actually really confused when I was diagnosed with postpartum depression, because like if you were to scroll through my photos in my phone, like I was smiling all the time.
yeah.
But anyways, so I wanted to bring kind of this awareness behind postpartum depression, that you can be highly achieving but still have, you know, those deep or dark thoughts. Um, and then I just wasn't able to keep going. Like I ran into the procrastination. I ran into the self-sabotage. I dealt with major imposter syndrome. So even though I had all of the tools to create a successful YouTube channel, it just wasn't working. It wasn't happening. So that led me to getting in contact with my first mentor. And that's kind of how coaching fell into my lap. And I almost like I didn't want it. I remember telling my mentor, I was like, I don't know how I feel about being a coach. I feel like I'm quitting YouTube if I decide to be a coach. And there was so much resistance, and I was so scared of doing that. Ironically, as soon as I said, you know what, I am going to be a mindset coach, I know that there's women out there that need me to be that mindset coach for them. I'm going to stop being selfish. I'm going to stop being scared of being that role, and I'm going to show up as her. And it was like as soon as I made that decision and I made that commitment, it was like it just a whole new level opened up for me, and
Mm,
I had attracted like my dream clients that, you know, that needed my help, that needed my guidance in order to help push past their own procrastination and, you know, perfectionism that they were dealing with like I was beforehand. So ironically, I didn't want to be a coach because I was scared of the rejection and the failure. But as soon as I used the fear as a compass, I realized, you know what, this is exactly who I was supposed to be. And I'm just so glad that I've been able to have the clarity behind being a coach. But it was not without doing the deep mindset work, without really asking deep questions and following the fear. So I never want it to seem like it was an easy thing and I was like super confident right off the bat. Like I always try to be as transparent as possible and say that it's messy. I
mm,
always I joke around and say I'm a hot mess mama, but emphasis on the hot. Like, you know what I mean? You just that's a part of being an entrepreneur, is that it's taking that messy action and just going with it. Like for anyone who's stuck on like a niche or their website page or the name of their business, like none of that is like as important than really getting clear on who is out there needing your help.
mm,
As soon as you get clear on that, everything will fall into place so clearly.
mm. So, what brings you to clarity?
Do you mean like what has brought me to like where I am now? as far as like
Yeah,
being
yeah,
clear
and
on who I want to serve.
yeah, yeah.
Um, this definitely went, I would say two things. So, one, it was getting past my own mindset barriers behind the excuses like, oh, like you're not qualified, you don't know enough, anything like that, or other people are doing it. Those are really like common thoughts that I would get. So, as soon as I was able to, do the rewiring of my subconscious and make me able to feel confident in that, one, mindset work, I got clearer on who I wanted to serve. Secondly, also it was in implementing actual business strategy, as in getting in front of your ideal clients and talking with them. Like,
Mm,
my business mentor was just asking, like, she asked me, why are you guessing what people want instead of just asking them? And that was like a huge light bulb in my head. Like,
mm,
I was scared of putting myself out there and like telling people, hey, like I'm trying to do this. What are you looking for? But as soon as I just, again, like stop being selfish in my own fears and just was confident in like, hey, I'm really looking to help people. What is it that you're struggling with? And getting in front of those people, I got super clear on who I wanted to help. And as a tip for anyone who is trying to start their own heart led business, I would suggest like just talking to your closest friends, your family members, and then anyone that's like engaging with you a lot on Instagram, just like ask them, hey, what do you find valuable in my content? Or, what is it that you think that I help you with? Or
mm,
consider, what are things that people are asking you for help? And that's, it's a process. You have to figure it out. But I think because I took each chunk by chunk, I got closer and closer. I just had to chisel away until I
mm,
got clearer on who it was I wanted to serve, because my niche has changed multiple times. I never woke up one day and was like, this is what I want to do. I really worked hard on it, both in the mindset aspect and also getting in front of my ideal clients. Hopefully that
yeah.
answered your question.
Yeah, totally. And that's such a useful point because I think people can just throw stuff out there and really not have that clarity around what they want to do, who they really want to help. And yeah, I love that you like went directly to
Mhm.
your community and asked them to get to get the answers so you could serve them really deeply. Like that's just it's so amazing,
Oh
but
my
so simple as
gosh.
well, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, I am always asking my clients, I'm always asking my community, like, what is it that you need? They're honestly like, instead of just trying to guess, like they're the people that are going to tell you what they need for sure. You just have to
mm,
ask.
yeah. Um, and so how did you start studying mindset?
Well, it definitely stemmed from having been diagnosed with postpartum depression, and then, shockingly also being diagnosed with PTSD.
Mm,
That, I think had a feeling like I was dealing with like anxiety and like something was off for sure. But I honestly was kind of shocked that I was diagnosed with PTSD. Obviously, now with the knowledge that I have behind it, like, of course. But at the time, I was clueless. I was clueless behind how much childhood trauma can affect how your brain works in adulthood, and how it trickled into the life in my life, in my relationships with my partner, and the relationships with my family, in my career, in my school. Like, it trickled
mm,
into everything, and it was like, it was felt kind of earth shattering once I started to really dig a little bit deeper in how the brain changes.
mm,
And it was scary. Like, it was scary to have to like go down that road and like read about it. And but at the same time, even though it was really scary, I felt like, I felt like I don't want to cry, but like I felt like I finally had the tools to change my life, like
Mm,
to finally stop wondering what is wrong with me, like what the hell is wrong with me, to hey, there's actually nothing wrong with me. This is scientifically what happens to your brain after trauma, right? Like, I had people pleasing addiction. I had um I all this other stuff, right? Like trust issues, but it all stemmed down to these events that happened in my childhood, and all I had to do was be willing to do not only like the mindset work, acquire the knowledge, but implement the mindset work. And I think another aspect of not just studying it was also practicing the spiritual aspect of it, and going deeper. Like there's one thing to acquire knowledge, but there's another thing to really feel it. Like you can't just know it, you have to feel it. So I felt like I was just like on an endless journey of trying to rewire my own brain and set me up for the success that I wanted, but didn't know why I was constantly sabotaging myself from it. So that's kind of how it all started. And then how I became, a mindset mentor for mompreneurs, because for some reason I would only say things like, oh, it would be so nice to have a business, or just can you imagine like owning your own business? And I would always come up with these like business ideas, but nothing would actually ever happen, right? Like
mm,
my brain didn't know what that truly was. So that's why I'm so passionate about helping moms become confident in their business and to rewire these stories behind living small so that they can start living bigger with a lot more courage.
mm. Can you remember one of the first practices that you put in place for yourself?
One of the first practices, that is such a good question. Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I've learned was from my therapist, and it was to talk to myself as if I were talking to my daughter. So
Mm,
I was a former person that just like I talked so down to myself, right? And yes, it was able to get me good grades. It was able to get me a promotion, like try harder next time, blah, blah, blah. But it, at the end of the day, it just tires you out, right? Like
mm,
talking down to yourself, it just makes you feel bad, and you're never able to push through that success threshold. So once I started to change the language and how I talk to myself, instead of beating myself up for overeating or not working out or picking a fight with my husband, I can say something like, you know what? You were a little agitated. It's okay. Just let's try better tomorrow. That was huge for me, to just
mm,
learn how to talk to myself like a kind person that I was to other people, but I just wasn't practicing that with myself. And that was
mm,
really, really huge. And that's something that I implement so strongly in my own programs with my clients, is like learning how to stop the war on yourself because
mm.
that just it's not useful in the long term.
I love that. That's a really amazing practice and something so many people forget to do,
Yeah,
especially moms. My gosh.
I
Um,
know.
yeah, and
So
so
sad.
it
Yeah,
is
it's so
really sad.
hard.
Yeah. And so what is the legacy that you want to leave?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. And that has been something that I ask myself, but it's been a while since I've asked myself that question. Um, but it really is important for me to leave a legacy. And I I want to leave behind the freedom for my daughter to be able to create create a business or just create a life where she doesn't feel like there's these invisible boundaries holding her back.
Mm,
Because I feel like I spent my whole life prior to now feeling like I wanted more out of life, but I just didn't know what. Like ever since I was a little girl, I was so fascinated with Sailor Moon. I don't know if you know Sailor Moon, but like
mhm,
just being able to have like an adventurous life and um, being able to be a part of a big adventure, right? But I didn't know what that looked like in real life. I just thought that was just imaginary. And honestly, creating your own business and going against the grain, doing things that your other family members aren't doing, going on social media, sharing your heart and being real with
mhm.
people, that is scary. that is
Yeah.
not that's not the life for someone who wants to go the easy route, because the easy route would me just still be working at my corporate job as a banker
Mm,
instead of choosing to quit that corporate job and choosing to stay home and really work on a business to make impact and make income from home. And that's kind of my legacy that I want to leave behind, is that you aren't what your past generations are, or what they
mm,
set up for you. Like I want my daughter to be able to feel free, like, and
mm.
not to have these invisible shackles that I feel like I had for so long. That's kind of my legacy, just being able to create whatever you
Yeah.
want to create freely.
I know, and I mean, I'm so similar in my legacy with like my kids. I really, really just want to be able to inspire them and to do like anything that's possible for them and live their best life and show them by doing it myself and being a role model for them and opening up possibilities for them
Oh
just in
my gosh.
conversation and how I am with them. Um, yeah, I really relate. Um, and I mean, you've talked about this a little bit, but what kind of are some hurdles that you've overcome, and how did you overcome them? Or some challenges?
Yeah. uh, well, one really big one sticks out from my mind, and that was last year when I was really struggling with postpartum depression. And I had relationship issues my with a family member. And I had always been the person to overgive. Like that was my past self. Like I was always overgiving. I always put other people's needs first, um, because I didn't want to be seen as selfish. So this particular family member had always used me emotionally to, like, let's say they always had problems. And I was just one of those people that was willing to listen, and I'm willing to do that for anyone that I love. But it was one of those relationships where it was like they constantly had problems, but they never did anything to fix it, or they were enabling certain situations in their lives, and they kind of expected me to just soak up that emotion for them,
Mm,
and then that was it. And as someone who is highly sensitive to that, and there's studies that show like being around chronic complainers is just not good for your health. And I didn't really see it. I had my blinders up at this point, but it was actually really causing a lot of issues in my relationship with my partner. It was causing like my own emotional turmoil. Like I really allowed their problems to weigh heavily on my own, and it was not helping me with my postpartum depression at all. Like I really
mm.
just I don't know if you are can relate to being able to soak up other people's emotions and
Definitely
energy.
can. I
But
do it massively.
yeah, it was honestly very, very toxic for me. And I it was so hard to break away from that relationship because I feel like I had for so long wanted their approval. I wanted their love kind of without even knowing it.
Mm,
And I was at that point where I accomplished that. I got their praise, I got their acceptance, blah blah blah. But then it was like, but then I was kind of stuck. Like I wasn't able to continue to live my life separately. And so I had to set boundaries. That was like the hardest hurdle ever. Like I just was so new to that. I didn't know how to do that.
mm,
Something that I'm able to like help my own clients with now, as someone that has dealt with all these hurdles. I see it as a blessing now, but at the time, whew, it was so emotional. It was so hard, and I had I really didn't want them to see me a certain way. And that's what scared me from setting those boundaries. But when I set those boundaries, I did get the whiplash that I was so afraid of, right?
mm,
But I was free after that.
mhm,
I was free after that. I felt just like an immense weight come off my shoulders. I felt like I was able to fully work on myself, that I needed that. I needed to work on myself. I needed the space to heal and to do the inner work and to like immerse myself into healing my mindset, healing all of that stuff. And it's just it's impossible when you have something so toxic in your life.
mm.
So that was like the biggest hurdle probably that I've
Yeah.
dealt with
And how
recently.
did you set those boundaries?
um at this point, it was something that I had to be very like direct with, and just kind of like I couldn't be nice, not nice. There's a difference between being nice and being kind. Being nice, I feel like it's like, oh, I don't want to be seen as mean, so I just let it
Mm,
slide. That's what being nice is, right? But being kind is lovingly not enabling someone to use you. Like
mm,
whatever boundary you're setting, like setting boundaries to me is an act of love, not only for yourself, but that other person. It truly
mm.
is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I did. And that's the only reason why I was able to do what I did was, this is for my daughter, right? Like my daughter is not benefiting, you know, this relationship, right? Because she's getting this emotional and person right out of that relationship. So I really had to stop thinking about, okay, like, oh, what are they going to say about me, and really start thinking about my daughter, my relationships, and my own well-being. So just being direct at that point because of where it was. But
Mm,
for anyone who is new to setting boundaries, I always suggest starting smaller, like not allowing little things to go by, just stating what it is that you would like,
mm,
and just being respectful. But the earlier you can set boundaries with people, the better. And then also just ensuring that you are continuously resetting that boundary, because people will try to poke holes through it. They're trying to test, where
yeah.
the boundary falters, right? But yeah, it takes practice, and it's not easy, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I've done the same thing, and I've done had some really tough ones, and they were really challenging.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but doing it, like, you grow so much in doing that as well, standing in
Hmm.
that authority and using your voice. And yeah, it can be really scary, but it's such a necessity to do that, in my opinion.
Yes.
And so what
Yes.
what inspires you or makes you feel like your best self?
Oh, that is such a great question. Um, what inspires me? I gather inspiration from my daughter. Um, I feel like when things get really scary and things get really hard, I just have to look at her
Mhm.
and just kind of think about, you know, what would this would I want this to stop her? Right? Like
Mm. Oh, good question.
I always try to make yeah, I always try to make my actions like be bigger than me, right?
Mm.
Because if I were to just come from a place of serving myself, I would be comfortable. I wouldn't be doing any of the scary stuff. I would just be staying the same, right? Because that's
Mm.
easy. But once I start thinking about outside of myself, that's where I really get big inspiration. Another really big piece of inspiration for me is my mom. And my mom, she passed away when I was 7, and she literally left her home country to move and find work so that she can help benefit her parents.
Mm.
And then she also, she moved and migrated to America for me, right? For her kids. I can't
Mm.
imagine how scary that is, right? To just leave your country, leave your family, but you do it for your child. And me thinking about how our time together, me and my mom's time together was limited, it was cut short, but it wasn't all for nothing, right? Like
Mm.
that helps me to live in the moment. It helps to get me out of the fear, and it inspires me to push past limitations to truly enjoy life, because it's not an endless thing. Like there is a cutoff time and we never know when that's going to be. So it might as well just like live the heck out of it. Right.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I love it. And what are you curious about right now?
What am I curious about? Um, I, I have been able to take this time of quarantine to be able to brush up more on my studies and being able
Hmm.
to provide more value for my clients. So I am taking up right now, I'm really diving deeply into sales psychology and
Hmm.
really making sales feel good, because
Mm.
a lot of my clients, like they're running into mindset blocks behind selling in their business, and they're making it about them, right? Like
Mm.
selling feels icky, selling feels gross. And the truth is that selling doesn't have to feel like that, because I do resonate with that. Like I never liked the selling aspect of any job that I had,
Mm.
but without selling in your business, like you cannot make the income that you desire. And then if you don't make the income you desire, you're not able to fully give back to the people you want to make impact to. Like
Yeah.
the people you want to serve, they need you to make income so that you can sustain your role in your service, right? And to provide more value. So I'm really diving really deeply into sales psychology and helping my clients feel good and confident in their sales. That's something that's really interesting me right now. And I'm also getting my certifications in hypnosis therapy and in EFT. Like those are really big
Mm.
things that I'm incorporating into my business and really trying to help my clients with. And it's been so fun.
Yeah, I love EFT too. I've done training in that too, and it's really I
So
love it.
good.
Um, and so what's your favorite book and why?
My favorite book. Oh my gosh, I literally have so many books. It's so hard to pick one.
Such a hard
Um,
question. I know.
I literally, okay, I don't know if I feel like there's two people in the world. There's like people that like pick up a book and like finish it straight away and then start a new book. But then there's like other people like me who are like reading 3 different books at a time.
That's like me. I'm reading so
But
many.
okay. So I will just I'll talk about a couple that I have right now that I'm loving. So the current book that's on my nightstand that I read little chunks of it every night because I feel like it really like inspires me and it helps to like rewire my subconscious while I sleep. So it's called
Mm.
the Motivation Manifesto,
I've heard of
and
that.
that one I love. Like I love it makes me feel like it literally makes me feel like I am set on this adventure, right? Like that I'm this quester and like my doubts and my urges to self-sabotage, these are like the bad guys that I'm like slaying every day. So I
Mm.
love it. Another one is I am really close to finishing it is You Are a Badass at Making Money. That's like
Mhm.
another popular one, but like so good. So
Mm.
good. I love that
Yeah.
one. Like if you're really trying to manifest money in your life, I highly recommend that book. Like as soon as I started that book, I like manifested thousands of dollars. Like I'm not even kidding.
Wow.
Like I don't know
I'm
how
reading
that
that book.
happened, but
Yeah, it's one of
yeah.
my books on my
So
phone.
watch out for the money that's coming into your life.
Amazing.
if
I
if
love it.
anyone reads it, like tag me, let me know.
Yeah, for sure. It's such a great book. And who's your most impactful leader?
My
Or
most
like
impactful
teacher, I
leader,
mean,
like
sorry.
teacher.
Yeah, that's impacted
Let
you
me
the most.
think. Um, I would say, okay, does it have to be like, can it be someone in my personal life?
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't have to, it can be
Okay.
whoever just
Okay, this might get
impacted
a
you.
little bit, this might get woo woo. This might get woo woo for some people.
That's
So,
fine. I love that
but
stuff.
bear with me.
Yeah.
Bear with me. Okay. So, okay, my both of my biological parents passed away at a very young age. So my father passed away when I was like probably before I was 1 or like right when I was 1. And then like I mentioned earlier, my mom passed away when I was 7. So I when I was really trying to like start spiritual practice, which I had never been spiritual prior to like this recent year, I I had incorporated a psychology technique that I'd studied along with a spiritual technique. So the psychological technique was the ideal parent therapy, and that's where
Mm,
you sort of envision what it would be like to sit down with a parent figure or your parents, and they tell you what it is that you wish that they would have told you. If you dealt with parents who were impatient with you and you needed more patience when you were younger, you just envision your parents saying something to you that really, they're really patient with you in whatever circumstance.
mm,
And also I was practicing meditation for the first time, like really getting deep into meditation. So when I was practicing this ideal parent therapy technique,
mm,
it was my first time ever doing it, but I kind of like got into a meditative state, and I did the therapy, and it was insane. Like I literally felt like I was in a dream, and it was like I was conscious, right? But I was like in a dream at the same time. And
mm,
like I feel like my parents told me like a wealth of wisdom that I needed at the time. Like they told me
mm,
to stay calm and focus, and that I could do anything. Like all I had to do was like look up all the time. And they told me about how I was so strong and the trauma that I endured, and that never they never would have left me if they knew what would have happened, but that it all was for a reason. And there was something bigger out there for me. And this was even before I decided to become a mentor. It was before I
mm.
decided to like be in business for myself. And they just like they knowledge bombed me like during this
Yeah.
kind of like therapeutic session that I had for myself. And then when I came out of that, I wrote everything down in my notebook, and it was like it was all brought to life, and I really can't explain it, logically, but that was like, I know I told you it was gonna get woo woo, but I would say like that was something that I needed so much. And based on what I do know of them and based on like what family members have told me of them, like they truly are what I aspire to be for my family. Just
Mm,
always putting my kids first and doing what it takes to like give my child a better life.
mm.
So yeah,
That's
that got
beautiful.
really deep.
It did, but it's so beautiful. And, like I was adopted, so I don't know my birth family. And so,
Yeah.
um, I've never done anything like that around my
Oh
family.
my
So it's really
gosh.
inspiring to me, like, yeah, because I could feel how powerful that could be. And yeah, it makes me a
Oh,
bit emotional.
oh my God. I highly recommend it. Like I feel emotional thinking about it, but it's so healing. Like it's so healing to be able to hear what you were meant to hear and in such a safe environment. And like whoever decides to do this, like listen, like just listen, allow it to come through and open your heart. Like just really envision your heart opening up to what is out there for you to receive.
Mm,
And I think you'll be blown away.
yeah, amazing. And did you just take yourself through that process by yourself?
I did. And like ironically, I wasn't like, okay, I'm going to sit down and do this therapy on myself.
Mm,
I like randomly woke up really early and like I was like fixing my bed, but then I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I'm gonna like lay down. And like I put my head down and like it was like weird. Like I all of a sudden like, oh, what if I did this thing that I've been reading up on? And then
mm,
it just kind of like happened. It
mm.
was so strange, but it's been like one of those moments that I always look back to for
Yeah,
sure.
wow, that's powerful. Um,
Yeah.
and what do you wish you'd known when you first started out?
In my business,
Mm,
what did I wish that I knew? Oh my goodness, so much. Okay, so I can think of one. I would say that even if you feel like you made a quote unquote bad investment or that you quit on something, that there's always a lesson behind it, no matter
mm,
what you think that failure is. So, like, I had invested a good chunk of money in a course to help me with my goals because I really wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. So I had sought help from someone else and like I invested in their course. And after the course, I kind of felt like, did I make a mistake? Like I
yeah.
didn't get what I thought I was going to get out of that. And I was really scared about investing more money in my business because I had my current business coach, like she reached out to me and I was really scared to, make another investment. But when you look at any quote unquote failure as a lesson, you'll really see something like really good happen. So for me, even though I made that investment and I felt like I didn't get what I thought I was going to get out of it, it actually was a huge lesson in what I wanted to provide for my clients as a coach. Like I didn't want the people I work with to feel like they were never seen, that they were never heard, or that they weren't getting that kind of attention,
Mm,
right? So like in the course that I I personally like didn't really like I didn't feel like I was seen. I had a lot of like issues with certain things. So I really made sure that I was like, I will never let any of my clients feel like that. I will like always, you know, give them like my attention the kind of support that I felt like I didn't get. So there was a huge lesson. Like I would have never known what that felt like if I hadn't gone through that. And that's
Mm.
something that I wish I would have known back then, that would have made it feel a little less scary when I decided to hire my business mentor. But my motto now is like, fear is your compass.
Yeah, and I've had a similar thing. I've invested in things before and they have just like
Yeah.
been it seems like a disaster, and I've been like, wow, I've wasted this money. And then
Oh,
um
right.
had some amazing lessons that I could not have got from the actual experience of the program or whatever it was.
Mhm.
Like there was just no way I was going to have the same learning from the experience anyway. Ended up being even better. It's just seemed
Yeah.
so different, and yeah, it made me
Love
really
that.
learn how I want to show up with my own integrity and
Mhm.
stuff.
Mhm.
um yeah. And what would you do differently?
Um, what would I do differently? I feel like I feel like I wouldn't necessarily do anything differently because like with us talking, like every failure is like a huge lesson.
Mm,
But if I were really to answer that question and like think critically, I would say I would have not tried to pursue being a YouTuber at first, because even though I think it's a really powerful platform, being a new mom and like being a full-time mom, it was such a huge endeavor, and it was tough for me to see any progress with that. Whereas when I decided to pivot my business and be a mentor and solely focus on Instagram and like build a following there and like find my clients there, like things started to happen. I started to see progress. So I guess what I would genuinely say is that I wish that I would have focused solely on business generating activities versus treating my business as a hobby, right? Because
mm,
like before I was like, oh, it would be nice to make money like if it all worked out. But that, like, to me is, you're not being, to me, I was not being the business owner that I needed to be in order for me to attract
mm,
money, in order for me to attract clients, in order for me to actually make the impact that I wanted to make. So
mm.
that would be one thing that I would have done differently, but I can see the lesson behind it for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. um and if you could work on any project with no barriers and constraints, what would you want to work on and be known for?
Oh, that's so fabulous. Um, I really am like obsessed with mindset work and just like rewiring your subconscious mind. And I feel like because I'm a mindset coach, there shouldn't be any barriers behind like what you work on and what you do.
Mm,
But I guess it would just be really creating, it's kind of like what I'm working on right now, but it's like creating a container for creating a space for mompreneurs to reach the next level of their life through mindset work, through rewiring your subconscious. Because for me, I really struggled with finding a space that focused on women in business who had young children, because
mm,
like it's so hard. It's like it's tough when I see other entrepreneurs online talk about like how they spent all day creating content and how they were able to do all these different things. But like my day starts with my daughter and I'm with her until bedtime.
yeah,
And it's like I get 3 hours, maybe 2 hours a day to work on my business. And like I'm tired. Like I would love to like sit down, watch Netflix, right? But Like, I don't have that luxury if I truly want to build this business. So that's why I'm so passionate about helping, moms with young children create thriving
Mm.
businesses and like help them know that they're not alone and that it is tough, but that it's worth it. And like really getting deep on why we feel like we can't make it happen. So
Mm.
I'm obsessed with mindset work. I'm obsessed with rewiring your brain and all of that good stuff because I've
Yeah,
just seen
such
like what
great
it's done for
stuff.
me and like my clients.
Mm.
Like I do have like soulful strategies for your business because like organic marketing, organic selling, and sales psychology and like all of that stuff. But like deep down, if you still have childhood core beliefs that are stopping you from excelling in your business, you can't implement those strategies. And
Yeah.
I know because I've been there.
Mm.
So that's why I'm just obsessed with that stuff.
Yeah, totally. And what's the best compliment you've ever received?
The best compliment I've ever received. Oh my gosh. Um, I anything that has to do with my brain. Like if anyone tells me that like, oh, like that was so insightful or like that was really wise, like I appreciate that a lot because, like being a woman, like you always have people that are like, oh, you're so beautiful or like you're pretty or, like, and I don't know, like when someone can truly compliment you on your intellect and like
Mm.
you being like a boss in your business, like to me, that feels good. Like that feels
Mm.
really good.
Yeah, definitely. And what's something that your work's done for a client that you didn't expect?
Um, so like an outcome from a client that I worked with that I didn't
Yeah, like
expect.
it, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I feel like there's so many, honestly. It's I feel like I feel like anything that they tell me, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, are you serious?" Like I can't believe it because like even though it's been such a dream for me to be able to help them through all of this stuff, when my clients tell me things like, "Oh, like my business excelled 216% in like 3 weeks." I'm like blown away, right? Like I
Mm.
don't expect it to happen so quickly. Or when they tell me things like I used to say out loud, when they say things like, um, I'm like starting to see how my mindset is showing up in my business and in my life and like how I see things differently. Like I know that that stuff is supposed to happen when people work for
Mm.
me, but like when they just say it out loud, it just like it solidifies in my brain that I'm doing what I was meant to do because, you know, I don't like again, like I only dreamed about doing this stuff, but then for it to like actually happen in my reality, it's like, what? Like, is
Mm.
this really happening? So yeah, everything that they tell me, I'm always like amazed, truly. But it wouldn't it wouldn't have happened if they didn't put in that work. Like I
Mm.
have I have clients who are just so smart and so driven and so ambitious and they're heart-led, hard working women and they're finally being able to channel the proper energy to push through and break through mindset barriers and it honestly inspires me so much to continue my own mindset work because it's like it never stops, but it's like you need to have the tools to help you in each and every level that you're trying to break through because
Mm.
new fears are always going to come up when you're trying to do like a new venture.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah. And what does, my favorite question maybe, what does elevating your life and soul mean to you?
Oh, so good. I love that question. Elevating your life and soul. I would say It's doing the things that a part of you doesn't believe you can do. So, what I mean by that, it's like whenever I do something that part of my brain deems as impossible,
Mm,
that is truly like elevating your life. Like
mm,
I once believed that it was impossible to be able to stay at home and build a business of your dreams and like love your life, right? Based on those core beliefs. But being able to do what feels impossible to you is truly elevating your life for sure.
yeah, definitely. Um, and is there anything that I haven't asked you today that you wished I had, or any final thoughts you'd like to add or share?
No, this was such a wonderful chat. I think you have such a beautiful soul driven mission and
Thank
like
you.
keep putting out such beautiful content and keep being inspiring. Um, I love being able to connect with other women who are heart driven and really wanting to make something big out of their one life.
Mm,
And I'd love to connect with anyone else who is in the same boat. It's my favorite thing to do.
amazing. And how can people connect with you, and what offers do you have out there right now?
Of course, I am always hanging out on Instagram. You can find me at Coach KC Vu. So it's
Mm,
Coach letter K letter C V U.
mhm,
And right now, I am opening up private coaching clients to work one on one with me. The beauty of that is being able to go really deep with the mindset work
mm,
and really break through any mindset barriers that are stopping you from showing up in your business, from showing up confidently on social media, and being able to feel good about selling and attracting soulmate clients and customers. Like, you should not feel resistant towards that. You should love it. Like, and that's coming from me, someone who used to hate selling. Like, really becoming the authority of your business, of your mindset, of your life. I'm really excited to have that open.
amazing. Sounds so good. And I will link
Yeah.
to all your details in the show notes so people can connect with you. Um, yeah, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so grateful. It's just been a really, really great chat, and we've gone really deep, which I really love because, yeah, I love that stuff. So thank you so much. I'm really grateful.
Thank you.